Hey BookTube, if you're wondering why I look so calm in my beard and head hair, it's because I washed my hair like 5 minutes ago. So, as the day goes, I'll turn back into your Rick and Morty mad professor. I just thought it would be fun for you to see what I look like fresh out of the shower box. But really, we're here for other stuff because I want to talk to you about the Chessmen of Mars. Look at that. Oh my gosh. What the heck? That's what I say. If you recall, book 4, the Thuvia made of Mars, it was okay. I didn't really like it too much. This one, because my reasoning before was I thought I didn't like it because, I really cared about John Carter and Deja and going to, I can't say his name, John Carter's son, and Thuvia seemed weird, and the characters in it seemed very, I don't know, it didn't, I don't know if it was just the characters or if it was the villains, but everything felt like really weird. This book, on the other hand, Chessmen of Mars, book 5, is really good. I was gonna give it 5 stars, but around chapter 18, things get kind of muddled from 18 to 20. It's maybe even 21. I think there's 22 chapters. But it gets a little muddied, and then it's another one of those John Carter goes back to Earth to talk to someone in his family and recites a tale to him or whatever. So there's a few questions that were left unanswered at the end of the story. And so the guy's like, well, what about this? What about that? And John Carter's like, well, da 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 da. And da 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 da. And I thought that was kind of lazy, I guess. I don't know. It just, that having to, because I could just see the editor at All Story was you didn't clarify these things, Edgar. Can you take care of that? And he's like, oh yeah, totally. I'll just have John Carter talk about it at the end. It was just it felt so tacked on, and the part where it gets muddy is because there are a lot of characters and a lot of their names sound very similar. You have Gek and Gahan from Gathal, and who else is there? Tara's pretty normal. And then yeah, those guys. Gek is amazing, by the way. Where are the? Oh yeah, okay. Oh, it's not going to tell me what their names. When they get to Manitor, which I'll talk about in a minute, everyone's name is 4 letters long, and it all starts with a vowel and ends with a R or an M. It's really, really confusing. But to let you know what the story is about. So Tara, who is the daughter of John Carter and Deja, she is a couple years younger than than her brother. I almost called him Catharsis. I don't know why I can't say that name. It's better than what I was calling him last time. While they're in Helium hanging out or whatever, there's this Jed, like a prince from Gathal named Gahan. And Gahan, like, is in love. He falls in love with Tara, like, sight, like, just as soon as he sees her. And she's already into this other dude that she's kind of promised herself to, but she doesn't want to get married yet. She wants to wait. And she thinks that Prince Gahan is a dandy and doesn't really dig him very much. And a storm was coming up the next morning, and she had never flown her flyer in clouds before. So she really wanted to get in there and like see what it was like to go through clouds and all that other stuff. And the storm that came was super horrific, and she gets like, seriously, I don't know if this sounds boring or not, but like I couldn't believe how exciting this giant chunk of the book sounded. It was like a whole chapter of her flying up and flying down and getting pushed by the wind and trying to like fight the wind back, and her flipping around and turning and going up and then going down because she got cold, and like she gets like lost in this storm, and she ends up like 12 hours in this storm that she can't land her flyer because it's like pushing her all over the place and flipping her and all this other stuff. So she ends up like super far away from home, and this is something that comes up in these books I've been noticing. There's always these civilizations that people don't know about. And I understand that Mars is a planet and it's kind of big or whatever. But if you have flyers and stuff like that, I would assume somebody would get a bug in their butt to like go explore and see what they can see, you know? So anyway, she finally like she sees like a tower and she's like, okay, I'm gonna land, maybe they'll have food. And as she's getting closer, she sees that there's just like all of these like decapitated bodies like laying all over the place, and she's like terrified and doesn't want to land or whatever. But then she notices that they're moving, and that they're like on their hands and knees like shoveling like gruel food into their neck hole. And these beings are called rykors, and they're basically, I'm trying to figure out how they're created. I guess they're engineered by the Cladanes. Caldanes? Caldanes? I don't know. The Caldanes, who are the little guys on the cover I showed you, the little blue heads with the spider legs. And it's so gross. They said they have a sphincter mouth. Ugh. Anyway, so these heads, these like totally advanced logic, reason creatures crawl up onto these rykors and attach themselves to the spinal column, and then could completely control the body. And that's how they get around, and that's how they do stuff. And if like one gets hurt, they'll feel the pain. So the Caldane will like get off the body and then go get on another. And they could be on males or females, it doesn't matter. And that whole bit was so amazing. Like, it's making me think if Tara is a boring character, because if Tara is as like flat as a character as her brother was in the last book, and there weren't the Caldanes and the Rykors, would I even have enjoyed this story? So, I don't know. It was just nuts. And so they find her, and they're like tripped out because they've never seen like a normal human before, or a red Martian or whatever. And they don't know why her head doesn't come off and all this other stuff. And so she becomes a prisoner. And the other thing that they do, the Caldanes, is that they have another group of the Rykors that they fatten up to just eat, and that's their food source. And they eat them like raw and all that. And so she's totally freaked out. So she's there, I think, for like a month. And Gek is one of these Caldanes, and when she sings, he really enjoys it. So when he finds out that I think I'm telling you a little too much here, but like there's this whole Chessmen thing that we have to get to. So Gek decides to help her escape once he finds out that the leader of the Caldanes is going to kill her. So he's going to help her escape. And then this is where I got confused. So everyone's looking for her. Like, they're flying all over Mars. And what's his stupid name? Gahan. Yeah, it's Gahan. Gahan takes a ship out, and he's going to find her with all his guys. And I don't really understand what happened, but he fell off the ship, and the storm carried him like miles and miles and miles and miles and miles, and safely landed him on the ground. And he didn't know where he was, but he came across the same civilization that Tara came to. So when he goes to try to like help rescue her, for some reason, and I like they, I just, I don't even know. He tells her that he's not Gahan. She doesn't recognize him. The guy that like a few weeks ago was trying to get her to marry him. She doesn't recognize him. And he wasn't in his super fancy clothes or whatever. I get it. But he decides to keep his identity secret, and instead says he's Tehran, Panthan, who's basically like a, I don't want to say a mercenary, but like they don't have a like a country that's theirs, and they fight for whoever asks them to fight for them or whatever. Then because of her social status, like love between them can't be. And when she pulls her little girl things like, oh no, I hate you, like that the girls pull, he gets really depressed, and he's like, I can't believe she hates me. And all I could think about is when she said she hated me. And it's like, for fuck's sake, people. So there's that. But anyway, so the three of them escape, and they're flying for days, and they're hungry and they're thirsty, and so they finally come across another civilization called was it Manitor. And they're okay, dude. I don't want to spoil this, but there's so many awesome things in this. So there's this whole bit where like on all the balconies there are these people just standing there looking down to the street, and they don't cheer when the troops come through. And Gahan, I'm not even going to call him his other name because that part was kind of lame. He like breaks into this town basically to try to find food and water for everybody. So he's running all around, and he keeps thinking that these people are watching him, and he's freaking out and all this other shit. Well, yada yada yada. He gets caught, imprisoned. The other two get caught and are imprisoned. And of course, no one has ever seen Caldane before, and no one in Manitor has ever heard of helium before. And there's all this shit about like this is what I don't. It doesn't make sense to me. Like Gahan is from where? Gathul or something. Dude, these names are so similar. It's real Gathol. Okay, so basically, everyone in like all the slaves that are in Manitor were people kidnapped from Gathol, and the people of Gathol, I think, know of Manitor. But if that's the case, I don't understand why no one's ever gone to war with them to get the kidnapped people back. Like, that just seems like a secret you couldn't keep for thousands of years. So anyway, there was that. So the chess game that they play, they call Jatan, and they actually tell you how to play it. It's actually pretty neat. I want to see if I could, I'm going to see if I can find an app and play Jatan on my phone. But they play it with people, and when people get into the squares with the other person, they have to like fight to the death kind of thing. So that's like a big part of the Manitor culture. But I'm just going to tell you two more parts that were just amazing. Okay, so Tara and Gahan are like trying to like escape, and they go through this these tunnels that go down like deep under the city. And they meet this old man who's like, I wish I remember his name off the top of my head. It's like Eyesore or something like that. But he is like, oh, so you guys are like my new assistants, come down here and we'll get started on work. And they're like, okay, yeah, right away. And so it turns out that he is fucking the taxidermy guy, and all of their like chieftains and warriors, they get shrunken down to like little foot size dolls. Like they pull their skin off their bones and dip it in this acid, and it shrinks the skin. And so there's like this great hall that has all of these like little foot tall dead mummified people that were big to do people in Manitor. And then when your family members die, you have them stuffed and put on your balconies for some fucking reason. And so this guy's like, yeah, I've had like a bunch of wives, and they're all on my balcony, and I hang out with them and talk to them, but you're going to be my wife now, Tara, and all this other shit. And he was like a motherfucker. And like, you're like, oh my gosh. But like, just that whole concept of like all these people, like stuffing their dead loved ones and putting them on a balcony to look over the city is so bizarre to me. Another great bit is when Gek is arrested. They don't know that his head could come off, and so they lock him up. And there's like these like, I guess the rats on Barsoom are like as big as like my dogs, so the holes in the ground are like that or whatever. And so Gek keeps like leaving the body and like crawling into these like rat holes and going all through the city and then coming back. And when he's gone, like a guard will come in to give him food and sees like a decapitated body and starts screaming and freaking out. And then Get comes back and gets on the body by the time the guy comes back with like all of his buddies and higher ups. And they're like, "You're nuts. What's wrong with you?" Da, 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 da. And like it goes on like it's really funny. I don't know. And like he like goes in and starts eating rats. Like it was just man. So anyway, this is a super long video of me telling you about a book. So um again, I gave it 4 stars instead of 5 because by chapter 18 that's when they start calling Tehran Gahan. Like some of the people call him Gahan, but some of them call him Tehran. And I was like getting so fucking confused. And it was like I knew, but it's like, you know, when you're reading something and then something happens and it jars you, and so you come out of what you're reading. That's what was happening. And it was so frustrating. So that bit and like the revolution that's going to happen with all of these similar named people like 18, 19, 20, maybe 21. It was just like I was getting irritated because I was so into the book and I like so wanted to get to the end, but it was like Edgar Rice Burroughs was like, "No, I don't want you to get to the end. I'm going to make your life difficult right now." But anyway, it's so good. Like, I'm so surprised by this series because, like, in all honesty, of all the genres that I read, sci-fi and fantasy are like the bottom of what I like to read. And the Barsoom books, I mean, you're looking at, I've read 5 of the books so far, and they're all good with the exception of one that's just okay. You know, like, what the fuck? So, definitely pick these up. They're definitely worth the read. They're super fun. And I can't wait to read the next one, which is Mastermind of Mars. And that's the end of the second trilogy, I guess. So, I'll probably be back a little bit later once my hair starts standing up and all that jazz. So, I'll see you later, BookTube.